This is Gibraltar Today. The Victoria Cross is the highest military decoration for valour, for bravery in the British and Commonwealth Armed Forces. And there's a charity dinner tonight to raise funds for the Royal Gibraltar Regiment's Benevolent Fund. The Governor, the Chief Minister and the Commander of British Forces will all be there, as will Regimental Secretary Ernest Danino, Major Ernest Danino. Thank you for joining us, Major Danino, and good afternoon and welcome to Broadcasting House to Warrant Officer Johnson Beharry, who's a guest speaker and one of only 3 living British Victoria Cross recipients. Lovely to have you in the studio.
Pleasure.
Can you tell us a little bit about what bravery you were rewarded for?
So my action is with my regiment, Princesses of Wales Royal Regiment in Iraq in 2004. I was involved in quite a few battles, but 2 major one was recorded. One which has saved the lives of 30 soldiers, which was the 1st of May 2004.
30. You saved 30 soldiers.
30 soldiers physically, and then again on 11th of June I saved 12 more. So going back to the 1st of May, what had happened, I was involved in on a rescue mission. 2 soldiers been shot in a call sign on the ground, and I was tasked to go in with my platoon on quick reaction force to get pick up the casualty and withdraw from the firefight. But on the way in, my call sign get ambushed, and my vehicle was in the killing zone. So I managed to break through the ambush. It was not as simple as just driving through it. It was pretty serious.
Were you scared?
No, I was never scared. I was never scared of dying. I was scared of what was happening to the vehicle, because I was driving a Warrior armored personal carrier, it was hammered by, I didn't know what.
Machine gun fire? Machine
gun, small arms, high, rocket. I couldn't tell because I was inside the vehicle. But the vehicle was blown to bits, it was holes everywhere. The vehicle was on fire. I was still advancing. And then eventually I managed to saw a grenade coming before I react to it, and then it blew off my hatch. And when that hatch blown off from this much sticking out to the enemy and the heavy machine gun fire, I managed to came to a building named Civic House where we have a company of soldiers looking after that area, and see the rest of the company, and not having internal or external communication, I drove my vehicle straight into another vehicle to get.
But you were exposed. Your top half was exposed.
My top half was exposed and still under heavy machine gun fire. But everyone else in other vehicles was battened down, so you couldn't see any of the soldiers. So when I get the attention of the commander of the next vehicle, I asked for help. And the help I wanted was someone to come over to my vehicle and tell the guys to get up, because there is no communication over the radio. No one came. So what I did, I get out of the vehicle and I crawl underneath the vehicle because the vehicle was on fire. And the only thing I could think about is how I'm going to get on top of the vehicle, get through the fire, to get the commander and the gunner to tell them to get out. I didn't have an answer for that. So what I did, I just climbed up the vehicle, run through the fire. The first person I had sight on was the boss. He was unconscious in the turret of the vehicle. I grabbed him, pull him out, put him on my back, get him into safety. I came back again through the fire.
You were able to carry him. Let me just remind our listeners that we're speaking to Warrant Officer Johnson Beharry, one of only 3 living British Victoria Cross recipients, and you're recounting an ambush situation, a rescue and then ambush situation in Iraq in 2004.
That's right.
And you were able to, you're obviously a strong guy, but I imagine it's not easy to carry somebody on your back.
Well, I carried 19 wounded soldiers into safety before I went back into the burning vehicle and lead the rest of the company into safety. And then
you carried 19 on your back?
On my back,
One by one?
Yeah. Fireman carry, bending knees, I'm not too sure.
Under fire?
Under heavy machine gun fire. And then, so that day, I physically carry 19 wounded soldiers and then lead the rest of the company, which is a total of 30 soldiers I saved on that day. Fast forward 6 weeks later, which I don't have no memory of, on 11th of June 2004, again, I was on quick reaction force on an outpost, but this time I was waiting. We're just waiting for something to happen. And then
Is it normal that somebody who goes through what you've just described, that they would stay there? I mean, I would have thought that they might have needed a few weeks to recover psychologically from what they've just been through.
Well, it was a few weeks. It was 6 weeks later. But what I haven't mentioned, I was shot in the head with a 7.62. I diffused 540 Brits in my lower back, and I had a heat stroke from the 1st of May. And for that reason, I was told I had to leave theatre and come back to the UK.
Shot in the head, but the helmet took the worst of it?
The helmet took worst of it, but there was still part of it went in. So yeah, I did not allow to carry on. I had to come back to the UK, and I was told that I refused to come back to the UK. I didn't want to leave the men behind. But they allowed me to stay, but I did not allow to go back on patrol. And on 11th of June 2004, again, for some reason, I'm back on patrol, but again, back on QRF, Quick Reaction Force. This time it's on an outpost, and I just sit there, wait for something to happen, and then we get tasked to go in because we know where the enemy was. At that point, we knew where the enemy was because the camp get blown up. I drove for probably about 700 to 800 meters. Two bullets was fired at the vehicle. One hit me on my shoulder and one hit me on my head, followed by a rocket propelled grenade. The rocket propelled grenade went past my face and detonated 6 inches from my head, and the back blast of the grenade completely ripped my forehead off. I've got no memory of it, but I managed to reverse the vehicle out of the contact, saving 12 more lives. I went instantly in a coma, which I stayed in for 5 weeks on life support.
Goodness. Oh, wow. So, I mean, because when we hear you telling this story, it's barely believable that you came out alive, but it was only just.
Just, yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that incredible story, Warrant Officer Johnson Beharry, one of only 3 living British Victoria Cross recipients. And let's say good afternoon now to Major Ernest Danino, Regimental Secretary of the Royal Gibraltar Regiment. When you hear that story, I'm lost for words really to describe what we've just heard.
As a military man, ex-military man, it's impressive to hear from the person who's lived it and his stuff of films, really. And I've met Johnson yesterday, and his stories and his experience during that and afterwards are incredible, and it's a pleasure to have him here.
Let me ask you what your impressions are of Gibraltar and of the military significance and partnership.
First impression, I feel like I'm home because the weather is like Grenada, not like today. Grenada is, it rained and then it stopped, but it seems like the UK don't stop at this point. The weather is nice, little bit more developed, a lot more developed than Grenada. So I actually feel like I'm home. I'm on the military side. It's great. Gibraltar Regiment is part of my division, Queen's Division. So we have affiliation with the Gibraltar Regiment through my division, and the colonel of the regiment is actually Princesses of Wales Royal Regiment, which is my regiment. So you could see the connection.
There's a synergy there, yeah. Let me ask Major Danino about the reason for asking Warrant Officer Beharry to come over to Gibraltar.
Well, we've got Mr. Beharry and Colonel Tim Collins as well from the Royal Irish. They're 2 guest speakers for the charity dinner tonight, and they'll be giving presentations during the dinner independently on their military experiences. And the idea of the charity dinner is to raise funds for the Royal Gibraltar Regiment Benevolent Fund, which was formed back in 2001. And I'll explain briefly what the charity is. It's to provide relief and financial assistance to serving and former members of the regiment, as well as their widows and dependents. And since its induction has been used to assist, soldiers, mainly retired, who run into difficulties financially and health-wise, and it's a very important and very dear to our hearts.
And when you look ahead to tonight, you have obviously the Chief Minister, the Governor, the Commander of British Forces. Have you, Mr. Beharry, already had a chance to speak to any of those officials?
Yes, I have. The Governor was my previous boss, so we have a lot in common from the old days. And I literally just came from his office and come here, and it was a rush to get here because we had too much to talk about.
I can imagine. And what's he like? Because obviously he's a fairly new governor for Gibraltar. What can you tell us about Sir Benjamin Bathurst?
He's an amazing person. I think you really need to get to know him. He would. I think he's a great asset to have. I think it's the best way to describe him. He's a great asset to have. He's been my boss for many years, and I wouldn't change anything from the past.
Brilliant. And last word for Major Danino. You looking ahead to tonight. What are your hopes for the event, and what are you hoping those attending will leave with a sense of?
I'll explain a bit who's attending. It's a corporate affair. We put out tables for sale, shall we say, where corporate businesses have paid to be in the dinner. We're also going to have a raffle and an auction. We have a number of military memorabilia, Johnson Beharry signed books, commemorative shells, etc. to auction and to raffle during the night. And the ultimate aim is to make money for our charity and also have the two wonderful guest speakers give out their experiences and everybody to enjoy it and make the most of it.
Amazing. And we hope it goes well for you guys tonight. And clearly you're a man who believes in defeating the odds, Mr. Beharry. Given that you were given less than a 1% chance of survival, I'm so glad that you beat those odds and that you were able to be here today to share your amazing story with us. Thank you so much. And
thank you for having me.
Enjoy the rest of your
pleasure.
stay, and good luck for tonight, Major Danino.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.